Let's do it. Let's just push record and dive in.
Do it.
Um, Unfortunately for the listener, they will not hear me praise you
Mm,
effusively, like I just did. But I had just said that you look like you're glowing. You look radiant, Leila Dylla.
thank
You
you.
look you look like a vibe. You look like a good vibe. Good egg.
I am a good vibe. I focus on being a good vibe. I
Yeah.
cried most of today, but that is purifying, I think. It's a
Yeah,
special
maybe that's it. Maybe you've
ingredient.
cleansed your shine.
Yeah. I'm ready to go. I'm happy to be here. Always happy to talk to you.
Are
Happy to
you
teach you.
are you a good crier? Like, does it come easy for you?
It's coming easier. I was not always a good crier. I was a not crier for a long time. Um, but now I'm a pretty good crier. Like, doesn't matter where it is or who's watching. If it's coming, it's just coming. Actually made a comment recently that usually there's like that feeling before you cry where everything kind of squeezes and you're like, shit, that feeling doesn't happen quite as much anymore. It's just like, and I'm crying and we're in public, or like, now this is happening. And it's just more of like a steady stream without the squeeze first. Um, I don't necessarily know if I like that better or worse than the one with the warning, but it feels good. I feel like I have a sense of reverence for it now. It's like a look at me feeling. I'm doing the life thing better than I was before. It's moving through me. Look how feminine I am. And then I'm like, fuck this. This is terrible having to feel all of this. Whew. Yeah. They don't
It's
last super long, thank God.
it's just fun to like picture you sobbing in public while also concurrently thinking to yourself, God, I'm so feminine right now.
Usually don't happen at the same time, but they do back to back. I'm like, oh, that was a good job. Hey, I cried today saying that my dog had to go get x-rays for his heart, and I was just
Mm,
rattled and crying standing in the parking lot. Oh, I was like, and I'm in the parking lot, like the vet techs are walking around. It's okay. I don't need anybody to give me tissues. Just gonna let it rush through. And then afterwards, I was like, good job. I feel better. Because if I had held that down, I probably would have exploded.
totally.
Oh, I'm doing
Is is the squeeze that you alluded to, is the squeeze elimination, has that been intentional or has that been a byproduct of accidentally growing older, wiser,
I
more
think it's been
wholehearted?
a byproduct of crying more, like being more available to full range emotions. Like, I think it's like a release of shame or like expectation of what other people will think if it's happening. Like with any big emotion, like I think there's a lot of social expectation around how to demonstrate our emotions or express our emotions and when it's appropriate or when it's not, and we don't trust ourselves inside of most big emotions. So I think as I've learned to trust myself inside of them, there isn't a resist that huge resistance to anyone, whether it's tears or explosive laughter or intense frustration. It's just like, well, I'm just going to let it come because I trust that my nervous system can handle it. I trust that most of the time the people I stand around can handle it, or that I'll, take space if I need to take space instead of it erupting and not knowing what to do with it. So the squeeze happens.
Yeah, it's interesting because what I'm hearing is you trust yourself more now, and so crying or expressing emotion is easier. But I
Mm-hmm.
think for a lot of people, this story is completely the opposite, which is I can't let myself show or feel these things because I don't trust my system or I don't trust the world around me to receive that or to hold that. Right.
Yeah, it often is. And it causes so much restriction. I mean, it causes all the way to like it actually causes disease in the body to not let our emotions or energy move through us like that. Um,
Mm.
that's a lot of what I work with people with. Actually, it's like specifically I work with women, and um, the feminine is this fluid, ever changing experience of our inner world,
Really?
and that shit is not very easily approached. Like we don't know how to manage it or ground it or express it in a healthy way. We aren't really taught how to nurture that, regardless of what gender we are or identify as. There's this like internal wave of feeling that really makes life beautiful, but we do not trust it. So
Mm.
that's a lot of work I've done in my life is learning how to trust that and figure out how it moves through me in a way that's mature and elegant and poised and radiant, chaotic sometimes, but like I do trust it and we have to work with that. But a lot of people don't, and it causes a lot of anxiety. It causes a lot of depression, cause a lot of stagnation in the body, lack of inability to sleep, inability to connect with others, a lot of self-judgment and criticism. It's a big point. I feel like people become more free when we become more in tune with our emotions and how they move through us. It really is our beauty.
I know this has virtually nothing to do with what we plan to talk about, but do you mind if we just continue chasing this for a few moments?
Yeah,
I'm
I
curious if you could detail a little bit more specifically, even maybe with an example of like who you used to be in that context and where you got to now and how you managed to wrangle that sensory or emotion or however you describe that. Like how did you come to tame that, or I don't think that's the right word, accept it, embrace it, etc. Do you know what I'm trying to ask you?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I'll paint the picture of what it used to be like. So I think we have to look at like our family unit when we're looking at like what emotions were appropriate. How did I learn to express myself, regardless of gender? Again, just look at our upbringing, who exemplified emotions in front of us, and what did we learn about what was healthy and not healthy? What do we learn about what was safe and not safe? What do we learn about what was trustable and not trustable, and good and bad, and all the ways we classify things as a little sponge when we're babies? So for me, I was the middle child and also played the role of peacekeeper. And so any emotion that was like really intense just was kind of off limits. I had a lot of chaos in my family unit, with siblings and the way my parents were and the businesses they ran. And so I had decided, based on the way I was trained, that like being even keeled and peaceful, and the one that like knew what to do, was more logical and just like grounded all the time, was the way that like the whole family was going to get along better. um, and I watched some interesting displays of anger, which I made up in my mind. It's just like, that's not a safe one. Like I don't really do anger. And I really didn't see grief or sadness expressed in any sort of healthy way either. So I was like, well, okay, that one's off, because that just feels too fucking big if I go towards it. So there's no way I'm going to do that one either. And so I kind of, in my early adulthood, late teens, early adulthood, was just like, well, I have a really small lane to walk in of what's socially acceptable and what I also accept as me being mature or healthy, or like what's going to lead me to having more friends or be good at my business. Or it was just like a small range. I knew I needed to be kind and efficient and considerate and poised and reliable. Like I just learned like the things that would make other people really like me, or that's what I thought, because I had been praised inside of my family unit, or by I just any emotion that didn't rock the waters. Those are the ones I was good at, because it's how I needed to be inside of my family. And then inside of relationship, like intimate relationships and all relationship is where I feel like we learn the fucking most. So I was like, well, I can't seem to feel all the way. Like it was like I could feel and then I would like numb out. Like I started to get into a range of um like I could almost feel my nervous system either wanting to fall into shutdown. Like it won't be okay if I get that angry. Like this person will leave, they'll reject me, this will be over, I'll ruin this if I go that far. Or into grief. Another one I didn't really do was like, if I go there, I'm never going to come out of it. I'm going to be stuck in that emotion forever. So my system would almost get into like an overwhelmed feeling and then a shutdown. And so I just continued to kind of pong ball in between these really narrow lanes for quite a while, almost kind of until I got tired of it, realizing that like, well, I would like to feel all of this inside of a relationship, because it seems like that's where the beauty is. I just didn't have a nervous system that supported it yet. So with most of my realizations or shifts that I've had, it's like I had to get really fed up with the way I was feeling inside of my body, and then be like, I need help. This doesn't feel like the best way I could be doing it. And I've always been a fan of like, see as many therapists as you can, hire as many coaches, do the actual stuff. Don't just listen to it on Instagram, like actually do it. And I started going to therapy when I was pretty young. I think 23 was like a time when I just like powered through a bunch of trauma therapy and was like, oh God, I feel so much better. And then it convinced me that there are a lot of people who can help us be better people and feel more free. So I've been on the train of like, just do the things with the people that can help you and your life will change. And it happens every time for me and the people that I work with. So got fed up, was like, I need to work on emotion. And I think there was also a piece in that made me realize that I really needed more education around my nervous system and a reconnection to my body, because we feel emotions inside of our body. Obviously, our body only ever lives in present time, and emotions only ever run through us in present time. And so it's kind of a trifecta of learning to live really presently in my body and working with my nervous system to trust energy moving through it more fluidly without me shutting down. Some of the things that help with that and the initial like burst of realizing it was I read Michaela Boehm's book, Wild Woman's Way. I'm a woman, and that book was very helpful and poignant. She has extensive wisdom around femininity and that energy dynamic, but also the nervous system, psychology. She has a lot of incredible practices around resensitizing the body again and actually just moving what you're feeling, which was not something that I did in my life prior, because I was also a gymnast, which was very rigid and like it wasn't about feeling, it was about performance. So it kind of rewired the body at the same time as the emotions. And I've took a lot of the practices from that book, and I worked with a coach that was specifically around emotional expression and feminine understanding. And I just kept a curious mindset with myself all the time. I was like, okay, I'm in a relationship with everybody always. Who am I around that helps me feel safe, where I can maybe just take like one step further into feeling more and then feeling safe inside of it and then come back and just like stretch my system a little bit at a time to start to build the trust with myself. And then instead of only having practices that were based around stillness and rigidity, which was a lot of my foundation, which was a yoga practice, same postures, same movement, and then a silent meditation, which is, I still do both those things all the time, but I was only doing those things. And now I've included movement and music and creativity and feeling, something that I would call feminine embodiment, where I literally just move every day, just to music, wiggle in whatever way I want, however my body wants to move. But also with a deep orientation towards the feelings and the energy that's inside of my body that might need to be expressed or felt, so that I'm actually just practicing having a range of emotions safely held in my body. So that then when I get out into the real world and I'm having an emotional experience, I know like, oh yes, I can go that far with anything. We even have a hard time as a culture holding joy and happiness and simplicity and contentment. Like we don't even hold those things. We're like, oh, I feel something else. Like whatever feeling it is, we usually want to shift it. So whatever it is, just knowing that I have a system that can expand around it. So yeah, Michaela Boehm's book was helpful. Recognizing that the body, the energy, and the emotions all go together. So it's kind of like a trifecta of healing. And then having a daily practice that involves my emotional range and exercising that. Is something I still do. And then the next piece would be recognizing it in relationship and practicing living with my emotions involved in the experiences that I'm having, and allowing other people to help me build the trust. Like I am going to cry in front of in the vet tech today. And it's like, I'm going to just trust that it's going to be okay. and it was, and not collapsing around it first. How's that?
That was really good.
Cool.
And I'm going to attempt to be a professional podcast host and transition us elegantly towards a topic that we mutually agreed we would discuss like 20 minutes ago. But so check this out, and you could let me know how good this is. But so Leila, I'm really glad that you mentioned no.
That's how I did my podcast, which is why I stopped it.
Thank you for that wonderful description, Leila Dylla. Now, no, but you raised a really interesting point / phenomenon, which I think is very common in the world, but it's not often widely discussed, which is you said something about putting a cap on our joy or our happiness or our bliss. And I've done this. I've seen this all around me. and it's some kind of story like, well, I don't want to be super happy because it's not going to last, it's all going to fall apart, and or I don't want to be super happy and expressive because I don't want them to feel bad because they don't feel like I feel, or they don't have what I have, or they're not doing what I'm doing, and I don't want to make them sad, jealous, envious, disappointed, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious. This is the part where I'm attempting to earn my paycheck here, even though I don't get a paycheck for this. But is the repression of joy related to us denying our gifts and holding back our gifts from the world? And if so, how do we find those gifts? How do we express those gifts freely and openly without stifling our abundance, bliss, joy vibe? That makes sense?
Kind of. So is our repression of joy kind of linked to our repression of our natural gifts that we really should be sharing with the world?
Yeah. If I'm, say, only expressing 90% of the goodness that I feel in my life,
Mm-hmm.
like, am I in doing so denying my gifts, and or am I limiting the potential ability for others to feel similarly? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Mm-hmm.
Marianne Williamson quote about we're
Yeah.
scared of shining bright or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
It's that.
Yeah, I actually would say that like our gifts aren't only the joyous, blissful, light things either. I think there's actually a great gift in our full truthful expression, even if it's um, something like deep grief or incredible frustration or disappointment in the way the planet is. I think what makes it a gift is that our heart is completely open and we're sharing um, our like truth, like the deepest truth that could possibly be within us. We're sharing something that we deeply care about, um, without it being contaminated by fear of what other people will think, or contaminated by the ego, which is usually not heart oriented. So let me see if I can make that more clear. Our gifts are meant to be shared with others, not to just be hoarded and kept to ourselves. And I see it as our responsibility to get clear on what they are, how they move through us, how they benefit the whole of humanity, and then really be responsible for sharing them in every possible way, as often as possible, to whoever you possibly can. And I think that when we know ourselves really well emotionally and we go through our healing process of recognizing like what's happened to us in our life, how has that made me a fucking genius, whether it was a good or bad thing, whatever has happened to us has created our creative genius. That's something I've been thinking about a lot, is oftentimes we think that it's only the good stuff that turns us into the people that we are. We're like, oh, they must have a lot of opportunity. But the reality is, like, most of the best fucking people with the most incredible gifts went through some serious alchemizing situations. And it isn't to say that joy can't alchemize us into having an incredible gift to share, because it totally can. It's the whole gamut that does. And I think just seeing our life like that, of like, what has happened in my life so far that has created the character that I am right now. And then based off of that, how am I using my character strengths or my gifts to leave a miraculous wake everywhere I go, or make an impact that I actually want to make? So I think there's a process of recognizing how powerful our past is to create the genius that we get to be now. Doesn't matter whether you're a coach or you have a social media or you're a millionaire. I don't give a shit. Doesn't matter what you do. There's a way in which you have a gift, many of them, that is affecting the world around you, whether that's your small family unit or your dog or just strangers you see, or like a massive amount of people that you get to impact on a regular basis. We're leaving an impact no matter what. And I think it's important to look at what's happened to us in our life that could be supporting um, that sharing or those gifts that we have. And in that, like, we do need people and reflections to help us do that. Sometimes we can do a good amount of reflection on what's happened, and start to hone in on what it is that we really want to share, and what we're really good at, and what our creative genius is, and what really matters to us, and what makes us compassionately angry, and being able to share that in an articulate way. But I have found that I need other people, to like coaches, therapists, and also just like trusted companions that are like, that was fucking awesome. You keep doing that. Because I don't know. I can't see how I can only see so much. Like our little vision of what our life is. Like I would say I know what my gifts are because other people have been like, that was good. You need to keep doing that same thing. Like, okay, got it. And then I keep doing that same thing. So there is an aspect of having other people around us that we trust, that can help us fortify and condense and get really clear on what they are. Um,
That's essentially the what happens behind the scenes when we host live events together. It's like we'll send people off on a break, and then you and me will get together, and it's like, Leila, you fucking crushed that. That was so good. And you're
yeah.
like, really? I did? I don't know what just happened. Like, no, you're a genius. Keep it up. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was really impactful. Okay. Are you sure? I feel like an idiot. No, no, you're not an idiot. You're good.
Yeah. Well, even just think like we're doing this retreat over New Year's and we're focusing on the mystic, the warrior, and the poet. And that came from, in essence, me being like, dude, Jeremy, like we did these open mic, like just authentically, these like open mic evenings happened during, it was supposed to be like our Q&A sessions, but then it was literally like we had people singing and like doing spoken words. And like it will like, I have goosebumps thinking about it because like we were just bawling, going like, this is the most beautiful, creative evening to watch these people just share these gifts based on them being inspired by the way that you share yours. And it was like, we didn't even think like that needs to be a big element of what we do when we come together. It's like there are so many people who have such an artistry they want to bring forth, whether it's writing or speaking or singing or any, we all have creative elements. And how much joy that brought to our experience. Like that was such a, I was like the unicorn of our last retreat where I was like, what? That was like a big piece. We would just sit there and drink cacao and cry. And like it was so, it was super special to have that. And like we wouldn't have known unless we were all there looking at it like, that's a piece, you know, and then like same with Travers, like you were really fucking good at that piece. And like this is really meaningful to people. And I love that we've done that for each other in this collaboration because I do think it's important. And like we couldn't see it without each other's vision, right? You're like, I didn't even realize that was important. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
That? You like
like
that?
fuck people up.
Um, going back to the idea of the gift though, because
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love that thread, and I want to just keep pulling at it for a moment. But it sounds like what I was hearing was that the positive expression, the positive side of emotions, whatever those might be, are related to the negative side of that spectrum, in that we have a capacity to fully express what we're feeling, who we are. And that capacity is related to the trust and the safety that we have in ourselves to
Mm-hmm.
go into our hearts, to live wholeheartedly, to fully express ourselves and be fully alive. And then from that place inside of us, if we are living fully expressed, let's just use that phrase, then that's the actual gift, right? And when we go
Mm-hmm.
out into the world and interact with anybody, any relationship, any contact we have, those ripples just pervade. Is
Mm-hmm.
that too simplistic? Does that sound along the right track? Like, how do
I would
you,
say it's definitely a long right track. There's a piece around this is something I'm really passionate about and just in the last year because I run a women's community and there's something about that that feels like I have a deep desire for every single woman inside of there to feel so valuable because I really feel that they are. Like it isn't just like I made a community and like I'm the only important, like the community is like a bunch of empowered beings coming together for a greater mission. And I find that most people, or like the shift that happens when people really start sharing their gifts and their truth and their self, their whole heart, is when people feel like who they are actually matters. Like where they just were able to just stand with a sense of like, I somehow get to be part of life, like this whole life thing that's happening. There's there's all these flowers that are blooming, all this food that's around, all these creatures in the ocean. There's like all the stuff, all these this is the cosmos, all these stars. Like I get to, like I popped up and I get to be part of that. To me, that's just like mesmerizing, mystical as fuck. I'm just like, what? And to me, that in and of itself brings value of like, if I wasn't supposed to be here, I wouldn't be here. Um, so for me, like zooming out and recognizing that there's like this massive network of energy and creation happening and I'm a part of that brings me a sense of responsibility and empowerment of like, whoa, I'm obviously meant to be here and do something. Otherwise I wouldn't be. There's lots of like, whoever is here is a part of this really big grand picture that's going on, this design. And when we can get to the thread inside of us that for whatever reason doesn't feel like it belongs, that we belong, or doesn't feel valuable or worthy. We all have that thread. And I think the healing journey or self-discovery journey or empowerment journey is really like, if we can get back to that thread and like reattach it, where it's like, I do matter. It's like, oh, then we start to take responsibility for our life. Everything we feel starts to matter. Like we start to matter implicitly, like from the inside we matter versus continuously going to people and being like, do I matter? Do you think I matter? Do you think I matter? Do you think? And we live in a society right now that is very externally, we're looking for a lot of external validation around whether we matter or not. So there's a piece around doing what we need to do to find the thread inside of us that is connected to all things and does matter and does feel a sense of value. That like the way that I participate affects everyone forever. The way that I speak, the way that I hold myself, the way that I feel, the way that I talk, the way that I like engage and move through the world isn't just me oriented. It's about everybody. And I'm leaving I'm leaving an impact. I'm creating a consequence. I'm leaving a ripple, whether I want to notice or not. So there, in my life, when I've been able to, I have practices and I've been convicted and devoted to keeping that inner value thread connected. Like me and life are together because we all are. Like if I'm not supported by life, like the breath will leave my body and I will die. If I'm here and I'm alive, that means I'm supposed to be doing something and I'm supposed to be here and then I matter. A lot of people don't remember that because we haven't been shown how to remember that. We haven't been given like the framework around inner reconnection, really. That isn't something that we value in our society. I think we're slowly starting to make that shift. And I think it'd be a great gift to the children that are being raised right now to have a sense of inner, like reconnection, but like inner worth just established from when we were young. Like you're part of this. Like it's okay. Doesn't matter what happens on the outside. Like let's feel the inside power first. All this to be said, that I think that's actually really essential before we can share our gifts confidently. Because if we don't have that inner reconnection and that place of like, I actually do really matter here, the way that I start to share my gifts will be from a place of really desperately needing you to like it. And when I desperately need somebody else to like it, I start to feel I might perform or shapeshift or feel a sense of like awkwardness or I don't know if that was good. I start to feel shaky around it and I can't actually share it confidently, wholeheartedly and in a relaxed manner. And if it is your truth, it should bring you a sense of healing to share it. It shouldn't be like, oh, I've just done this thing and now I'm like wrecked and can't like, what's everyone going to think? And then my life is over. Our nervous system thinks that like I just did it and now I'm going to die alone in a ditch. If we have that sense of inner reconnection and value, then I know in my life, I have felt like I'm responsible for sharing this. It doesn't matter who likes it or not. It just seems like the truest thing that can come through. I feel like it's my obligation and my duty to share it. It has felt healthy as it's moved out of me. And I completely trust that whoever's meant to receive it's going to. And it's a different energetic to go about sharing or offering whatever our truth is to the world, one from a very situated, wholesome place of like, I'm okay either way, or a place of like, I'm not okay, so I'm going to try to share this thing and see if everybody else thinks I'm okay. It's like, oof, man, it's shaky. It's a bit more shallow, and it doesn't gift us the way that it could if it came from a very deep, worthy place. And it's also not as effortful if we're in that place of worth. It kind of just like bubbles up from within us where we're like, I gotta share it. The only thing to do. It just came through, and like gifts are meant to be handed away. So let's do it. Versus like, I gotta come up with something and hand it because I'm not okay if I don't. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And from my perspective as a creator, as a writer or a content producer, that is an ongoing sort of negotiation that I have internally,
Mm-hmm.
particularly around vulnerable shares or
Mm-hmm.
things that feel big to me,
Yeah.
such as a book that I'm working on. And I noticed there was part of me at the start, and kind of still is egoically, it was like, oh, I hope this is a bestseller. I hope everybody loves it. I hope I sell thousands of copies or, whatever. And I was getting sucked into that route. And I was noticing that as a consequence of that way of thought, that I was sort of outsourcing my own power. And
Mm-hmm.
it creates this dynamic whereupon you're reliant upon external sources to fill you up inside. And that dynamic is not great. And
Oh God.
so what I
Mm.
shifted towards is I'm going to create the best thing that I possibly can and something that I'm proud to put my name on. And I'm going to
Mm.
throw that thing out at the world with as much energy as I can. And like whatever happens, fucking namaste and on to the next one.
Yeah, I love it.
It's so difficult in my experience though. It's this ongoing
Mm-hmm.
internal
Yep.
like fear versus excitement, like
Mm-hmm.
intuition versus strategizing.
Yeah. This is why it takes so much. It is an ongoing thing. I haven't like mastered this, and it's
You
fucking easy.
haven't?
No.
You're not just switched on?
No. I would say I can feel that I get better at it though every single
Yeah,
time.
certainly.
Um, which is great, because to be able to just feel progress is like, oh, whew, like I forgot for a little less time than I forgot the last time. So much easier on the system. So I always like celebrate when I'm like, yes, I was in that wobbly zone for much less. Um,
But
and I
even
think that
that
that,
is so huge for people. Like if you're
yeah,
listening, like that is
yeah,
gigantic
yeah,
progress. Like
yeah,
having the awareness of that, the realizations and the epiphanies, it's like, oh shit, I'm better than I used to be. I'm doing
right,
good. I've
yeah.
learned more. I made that mistake, but I made it faster this time. I've healed quicker. Like that's the game.
It is
Gold
a game.
star.
Yeah, and I think that there's a little bit of a all or nothing mindset when it comes to like healing or growing your business. Like it needs to happen now, and it's like I've never experienced anything like that. There might be like little moments where it's like, boom, I had a big understanding or like a huge release or like a big step forward. And it's like, and then it's just a bunch of tiny steps again until like maybe you get another surf, you surf the whole wave in. Great. Okay. And then you got to paddle back out, do it again. Like it's a constant process. So there's a piece of that that just needs to be reminded. I need to remind myself that all the time when I want myself to be somewhere else and I'm not. It goes in phases. And I wouldn't be able to handle it all if it all happened at once. I want to be able to integrate it. Like I just need one little bite at a time.
I've
Um,
straight up said that to clients of like, oh, you
yeah.
want 50,000 Instagram followers. I just heard you say that. But then I
Mhm.
also just heard you say that you're scared to post to your 300. So like, how do you think it was going to go if you had 50,000 followers? Like you haven't contemplated that.
Yeah, totally.
It's a big jump, right? And
Mhm.
so to your point about the incremental increases, I think is
Yeah,
vital.
yeah. There was, what did you say right before that? You said, because I was going to comment on,
I was talking about putting my name on a book
oh yeah.
and
Uh,
the internal versus external validation. I don't know. I'm so in the flow, Leila, that I don't have memory when I
okay.
speak.
Yeah, man. I had something, but
It'll come back.
gifts. All right. Where do you want to
Helping.
go from here?
Fuck
I'm
it. I
going
wish
on.
I wish I had a,
Mars. Let's
a
go. That's where I am.
I wish I had just a top hat full of random topics I could reach my hand in and just pull one out.
Oh, what's that? That was gonna be a good thought. I'm the queen of being nowhere and was totally going somewhere and lost it.
We're talking about the incremental growth versus you have like a big epiphany and then it's slow
Yeah,
again.
but before that, you're like, I want to put my name. I'm gonna Oh, that it's external and internal validation. That was a good point. I think that
And I
that's
said fucking namaste and throw
that
it
was
out into
good
the world.
too. That was good too. That was a good riff.
This is a really, it's a
Say
really
it
good
again.
this is a great episode we're
Yeah.
recording. It's really good.
Aw.
I have a question, and maybe this
Okay.
is along the track and something might arise, but
Okay.
how do you help other people to find their gifts, and or how do you um discover your own gift and like share that more readily?
Mm.
Like when you said that you work with a community of women and they're often there's a lot going on, there's emotion, there's second guessing, there's fear, there's trauma, etc. How do you help people see the gift that they are in the world? I guess that's a pretty broad question, but
Yeah. Well, first thing is, and I think that everybody can just start doing this, is when people feel that they matter, like, so I'm going to go back to the value thing because it's so important, but just treating people like they are a gift teaches them something about themselves. Because most of the time, a lot of our trauma, in whatever degree that you have accumulated it in your life, has come from a moment where we didn't feel important to somebody, whether we were all the way on the spectrum of being terribly abused, or we were on the side of just not having our parents' attention, or like there was a moment where we were scoffed off or a partner left us. There's this piece around our existence where we haven't just been met by another person, where we feel important enough to somebody for them to just be completely present with us. And if I can look back at the moments where I've had those like leaps of like, whoa, when I do matter here, it's when, and as I know this is going to sound simple, but like when somebody just made eye contact with me and I didn't feel like they were in a rush to leave, they like were just fucking there with me. It's overwhelming actually to be like, I am somehow this important, possibly even this stranger that's just completely with me. And there's something that happens inside of us when someone else meets us like that. It's almost like for me, I could feel like all the pieces of myself that didn't feel important from my past just like file in and be like, oh, this person's seeing me, they're feeling me, they're with me, they love me all of a sudden. And I felt like a more complete being, like all parts of me belong in this conversation or with this person that's holding me or that finally understands me. And I am of the belief that none of us are broken. We've just experienced moments or in our life where it wasn't okay for a part of us to continue, whether it was a big emotion or a shameful moment or something happened. We like have dropped little pieces of our spirit in the past. And it takes another person being with us and being like, I'm not leaving. I have the bandwidth to be with you in this moment, whether one word is said or not. I'm going to hold you completely. And I have felt, and I see it happen with the people I work with, like I'm just not going anywhere. I don't even need to fix you. All I'm going to do is be with you, which means that I'm not leaving and I love you. Like whoever you are right now is totally fine. I don't need to be any different. You can like, I can feel their soul like reintegrating into present time. And when you're whole, we know exactly who we are. Gifts just start bubbling out. Like we aren't broken beings. It's just this lack of approval and presence from other people. Um, that hasn't happened that keeps us walking around the world disintegrated, really. And when we become integrated, who we are is in service to humanity. Who we are is a loving being. Who we are is someone just naturally overflowing with kindness and compassion. I am of that belief that we are naturally good and reverent beings. It's just simply what's happened to us that has fractured us. And so I would say like the most important thing that we can start doing for each other is to just treat the person in front of you like they're a precious person. Like this moment matters with them. Like it matters to you that all of who they are can be in front of you. Like you want them to be there. And this is really difficult now. And it's actually not encouraged now in our society with cancel culture. We live in a culture that's supporting you don't actually belong here. Give me another intersection and reason as to why you can't sit in front of me and I'm not going to love you. Like we just have a lot of intersections of judgment, criticism, and hate and canceling, actually, which is the opposite of what needs to happen. Like, and this is something I focus on in my women's community, and just when I work with anyone and in all of my relationships, I want to be the person, and I focus on this all the time, that can hold anything that comes to sit in front of me. I'm not going to collapse around it. It doesn't matter who you voted for, whether you got the vaccine or not, whether I like what you eat. I don't care. I want to learn how to stretch enough in my being to be the type of person that can love whoever it is that comes in front of me. And when we do that for each other, it's like that person comes to life again. They're like, they remember themselves because they're like, oh my God, I don't have to leave pieces of myself behind to be here. Does that make sense? So I would say like the best thing that's ever happened to me is people that have done that. Me trusting what I feel when I am more whole. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then also having people and community companions, coaches, therapists that have celebrated me and given me feedback around what's worked and what didn't work, what was really helpful, things I couldn't even see, like we said. And then also being a person that celebrates other people, like not in a inauthentic way or an extravagant way. It can be if you want, but like if I see that somebody just gifted me with something that was so uniquely them, like I'm gonna tell them and I'm gonna be with them in it. Like that was fucking awesome. Or even just, I don't even have to say anything. Just being with them while they share it and receiving it completely is the deepest gift to them, because they're like, I felt how powerful that was for you, and it changed me. So really, this is just like, can I connect heart to heart, and can we have big enough hearts to where we're both changed in this exchange, so that we're both gifted a new experience? I would say that's the most important thing, to just like treat each other like we're the precious beings that we are. How healing is that? Oh,
Yes. And I think what I'm hearing is, so in
yeah.
there is this idea of co-regulation, right? Where you use another human being to help you regulate your nervous system. And in that sense, you are essentially borrowing their nervous system for a brief moment or two or 50 to help calm yourself and to feel safe, right? And it sounds like what you're describing is something similar, where you might be offering or providing self-belief, love, acceptance to an individual that might not have easy access to that themselves. And it's like, here, take my love, take my presence, take my approval and my joy, and like just hold it for a minute. And in doing so, you're letting them experience what that feels like. And then they can go away and, in theory, be that for other people, but also look in the mirror and be that for themselves. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's
Okay.
and there's a piece of this that, like, I wasn't always able to do this with people. I've become the person that can do this with people. I fortunately had people who did this for me, and I recognized how helpful it was, and went, I want to become that type of person. And it's not like I'm that person perfectly either. It's something that I strive for and I pay attention to. And every time I sit down to meditate or regulate my own system or pray or do my embodiment or my emotional, like all the things, talk to my therapist, I have it in my mind that, like, the way that I walk through the world, the way I hold people, the vastness of my nervous system is deeply important and impactful for other people. And so it kind of funnels back on itself and gives me a deeper sense of purpose and responsibility for my own healing, because I see that this is going to inspire other people to be able to do this too, within their circles and for themselves, like you said. So um, it it is something that we learn incrementally, that other people are always, if we're lucky and we're blessed, we have other people that do it for us, incredible, and then we can in turn become the people that do it for other people, and then we become each other's homes, because we're never not in relationship. And sadly, I think relationship is one of the more triggering spaces for all of us. That is where we've accumulated a lot of our deepest wounds, and a lot of our gifts have been crushed. Yet it is the place where we can come back to life and breathe life into ourselves again, if we choose to see each other as important, and we choose to see ourselves as important. And just like I said, like, let's treat each other like we're precious. Like, what if we just treated our own selves? Like, I wake up every day and I'm like, I know I'm here in service to better humanity. In order to do that, I need to be full. So there are things that are yeses today, and there are things that are nos. And no one is coming to tell me that. No one's coming to do my practices for me, or make my yeses and nos for me, or walk my walk for me. I have to do that. And so I have to feel like my participation is important and valuable, and that my life is precious. I'm going to act like it. And I think that there's a little bit of a facade around like people that just like have their shit figured out, that they didn't have to take responsibility for that process. We all do. If we're going to be empowered, it's because we've chosen to walk a path of empowerment and do things every single day that slowly over time accumulate to being a confident, regulated, expansive person. There is nobody who is those things who doesn't practice those things on a very regular basis, because they feel that they're important and that they're making a difference. And then things start to change, and then it expands out of us, and it becomes something that we're able to give to the world without a lot of effort, instead of this like, oh, I have to be this for other people because I'm not okay. It's like, I just genuinely want to be that for other people, because that's what I'm here to do. I believe we're all here to do that, but I've landed in a place where I feel like I'm here to do that, and I feel full enough to do that. But yeah, there's a sense of responsibility that comes with that I think I'd love to just hand everyone, of like, just do something today where you honor and respect and care for yourself in a way that helps you feel more full, more internally situated, more calm. You know, what you do every day for yourself becomes who you are, and then that becomes the person that you bring to every relationship. And we can make such an impact and share so many of our gifts and leave such a wake behind us with just the smallest things. It's not rocket science, actually. It's like the simplest shit that makes us better people. Like, just breathe more, just eat better, just sit down, just make eye contact, just like feel your body, like just be in the earth, just be with other people. Let somebody look at you, let somebody feel you, cry in front of somebody, don't squeeze, just cry anyway. Like, watch how it changes you. Like, retreats, this is what people do at retreats, and they're like, my whole life is different. I'm like, all you did was like eat good food, practice some yoga and movement, you danced a little bit, you did some breathing, you connected with nature, you weren't on your phone 24/7, you have to go to the store, drive in traffic. Like, all we did was just like give you normal human life, and just like nourishing connection and some practices that help you go internal, and like life changed, never, not changed for a week, but like just changed. You're never going back. Done.
Yeah, it's so difficult to describe what happens on retreats that we lead. Like, to write a one-page website and try to explain it, it's like, no, you just need to be there, because everything that you were just talking about in terms of community and being seen and showing up and feeling, it all happens at live events in an indescribable not therapeutic, but like healing. I mean, it is therapeutic in a sense.
Yeah.
I'm just cautious of using that word therapy.
Yeah. What's therapeutic?
It's therapeutic. It's like, it's the medicine, it's the magic. It's,
yeah.
No dishes, no shopping, no cleaning, no cooking. And all your only responsibility is to just show up and be yourself in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And just that simple act is a radical maneuver in today's society.
Yeah. Oh my God. The amount of joy that is experienced. I'm just like, you can't even describe, like, you cannot write a web page to describe like what really goes on, because it's all the small stuff that makes it so incredible. Like, I'm just thinking about like Mahmoud's pants. Remember those pants that he wore to the circle one day? Like, oh, just like the food, and like the in the pool with the fireworks, the dance parties, and the just like the hugs, and like the, I don't know, it's just so incredible. It really is difficult. It's like the conundrum of my life trying to describe what happens. But then when people come to these, they always come again. So that they always come again. And remember the first year we did it, the woman came up and was like, if I had known it was going to be like this, I'd have paid 3 times as much. We thought we were in trouble, like cornered me, you and Trevor. We were like, oh God, we messed up. And she was like, I would have paid 3 times as much. We were like, wow, thank you. Like that's good to know. Like this is really powerful for people. People got tattoos last time.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
It's insane.
Fucked them up. We fucked us up. We were all messed up too.
Like, I don't even have a tattoo of my logo on my body, and it's my business. But like these two
Yeah.
dudes that came for a week to hang out do.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our other friend designed it.
Yeah.
She like put the 3 logos together and they walked up and surprised us with tattoos afterwards. It changed her life.
Bananas.
It's
So we're
incredible.
doing an event December 27th to January 3rd in the
Yeah.
Caribbean in a
Mhm.
fucking treehouse village.
Yeah.
And we'll take you ziplining and waterfalling. And Leila
Mhm.
leads yoga and breathwork each day. There'll be
Mhm.
workshops. It's so fun. It's like one of the best weeks of my whole year, truly. And I
Yeah.
get to hang out with you and our mutual bud, Traver Bohm, who's
Yeah.
a
And
strong
then
wolf.
incredible. Kendra's coming. We
Oh yeah,
got
Kendra's
Kate
coming.
coming. The group is incredible. It's a co-ed group. Anybody's welcome. And you're literally saying, I went and stayed at this place to check it out, to see like, do I want to bring a retreat group here? And it was truly one of the coolest places I've ever been. Like you're sleeping in a treehouse in this valley in this jungle, and the jungle sounds all night. Like it's
Yeah.
one of the just being there for 2 days completely. I was like, oh my God, what? You're walking across suspension bridges. There's beautiful yoga shalas, a pool. You're 10 minutes from the beach. It was truly one. And I've traveled like pretty much most of the world, and it was gorgeous. So that in and of itself, and then pepper us in, get to be your friends for a week, meaning we get to be your friends forever because
Yeah.
everybody comes to retreats and we're in
It
connection
was
with.
funny when I had Traver on the podcast and we were talking about it, and he asked me, I think from a professional context, like, what are you looking forward to about the retreat? And I said, I like selfishly, I want to go to this fucking place. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I said, I design events. The main sort of hoop that I have to jump through is, would I go to this? Like, would I
Yep.
pay money to do this thing? And does it
Mhm.
light me up? And is it a hell yes for me? And I
Right.
remember you sent through the video of that place, because I was on the fence. I was like, I don't know about this
Yeah.
place. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, Caribbean, we've been going to Costa Rica a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's working great.
Totally. It's a change up. It's a
You sent
risk.
that video and I was like, oh my God, I want to see that place. Like, it looks bananas.
Yeah.
I think I remember
Yeah.
shoving it in Kendra's face. I'm like, look at this place. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
happening.
Mhm.
Um, and
Oh,
yeah,
it's gonna
if
be so
if
cool.
you're listening and you want to join, I'll put a link in the show notes. You can check out the webpage, and I know that Leila and I are happy to answer any questions or jump on a call, talk to you if
Totally.
you want to jam
Yeah.
about coming to hang with us,
Yep. Love
getting
to
your
have you. Would
gifts
love to
out
love
in the
on you.
world. Yeah,
Yeah.
can borrow
Love
our
to
nervous
treat you like you're a
systems.
precious gem. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it. I love watching people come to life. It really is a metamorphosis. Like I can just
Really,
think of a couple people in this last year that came and
yeah.
you were like, oh my God,
I
like
remember
this
standing off to the side. You know who I'm talking, and I was like, she is a different a human right now. Like,
is, yep.
she
Yep.
doesn't even look the same.
Mm. It's so powerful. We're gonna drink cacao. There's like a couple different fire pits there. Oh my God. I'm like I'm lit up. Yeah.
Um, Leila Dylla, is there anything we haven't touched upon in terms of honoring your gifts, making the world better, etc., that is front of tongue that you're like, you should have asked me this, Jer. What's wrong with you?
Oh, I think we covered it.
We nailed it.
Yeah, I love experiencing people's authentic expression and their creativity and their nuances. And just like my encouragement that those are the things that make you really lovable, the parts of you that you might feel like, oh, this doesn't belong here. I feel blessed that I'm around people who celebrate the parts of me that once felt awkward. And that I do think that that makes me a great person. And I love that about other people too. So if you're listening to this, just like do a one over, be like, what is it about me that I really like? And how can I start sharing that more? And just how can I take better care of myself? I think that is always a question. Like, in what way is my cup not full? Because if it's full, our soul's desire is to share. And we're responsible for that. So just dig your roots really deep and then get in places where other people are like, yeah, dig your roots deep. Like, be around people that encourage a fertile soil to root into. That is essential. We become the people we hang out with. And so if we need some reorganizing in your life to get in more nourishing places, do that and reach out to me if I can help you with that. That's important to me. I know Traver's got a men's community, my women's community, all of our communities are filled with incredible people who help each other grow. So just find those people and link elbows.
I think that's one thing that you and I have in common, well, the three of us have in common, is that we radically believe in other people. Like when people tell me weird ideas or like quirky hobbies they have, I get so pumped up. Like, I really want to do this thing, but it's crazy. That to me is like, go on. Like I demand all the details. Like,
Yep.
tell me about it.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It just feels so fun to be in that space of talking shop with people and
Oh my God. Yeah.
getting to know
I'm
them.
hype woman all day. Like, don't, I think was it you? It was like, or maybe it's T, or maybe we all say this, but like, don't, if you don't want your life to change, like, don't come hang out with us. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna blow smoke so far. Like, you won't be able to stand on the ground anymore. Like, don't tell me unless you really
Dude,
want it to take off,
there's
because
gonna
I'm
be
gonna,
so much smoke blown up your ass from us in
yes,
the
it
best
will be
way. You'll be floating. You'll be levitating.
gone.
Well,
But
with
yeah,
that beautiful visual, um, Leila, I know you've got an Instagram and a website and your heart space community.
yes.
So I'll share those links in the show notes.
Thank you.
Is there anything specific about that you want to say?
If this is going to come out before the end of October, the Heart Space is my
Yeah.
women's community, and the doors for enrollment close October 31st. They're actually not opening until February 1st. So if
Okay.
you're looking for a women's community to sink into, I teach master classes every month and bring guest teachers on. We practice breath work in there. It's a really potent ground for women to feel supported and really learn. We're
And it's
changing some stuff over the new year, so we're closing doors. So if you want to get in before and enjoy the holidays with us the next couple months, just join before the 31st.
and that's online. You don't have to be in Florida.
No, you don't. We
Entirely
do
online.
gatherings though. We did just do our first gathering in Denver in August, and we had almost 40 ladies come from all over the place to be with each other, and it was great. We're probably gonna do another one in the spring, so twice a year we'll get together.
I heard there
Um,
was cross pollination there with a
it was,
uncivilized
yeah.
men's movement.
We taught a huge workshop. It was really special. I think we had
And
over 60 people come together, his men's group and my women's group. It was, yeah, that was some good shit. So we're going to keep that going. But that's the main thing, just before the 31st, if you want to get in there. And then jump in this retreat. I'm happy to chat with you. I'm happy to get on a call, answer
yeah,
questions.
yeah.
Thanks for having
It's
me,
like,
Jer.
what's the alternative? Is like you're gonna get
Yeah,
drunk or go to a crowded bar with your boring
right,
friends and your Uber rides on
right.
New Year's Eve, and you're gonna wake up exhausted. Like, wake up in the tropics with us, and we'll go climb a waterfall and shit. Like,
Yeah,
how's this even a
totally.
decision? I don't get it.
Yeah, and I'm even just think of like the people that are still very actively within our community space that came last year. Like,
Yeah, they're coming back.
they're coming back, and like their lives this year that we've watched. Like,
Oh yeah,
it's just like so cool to
that's
see
so cool.
how that retreat, and of course they were actively on the path anyway, but like they decided to come to the retreat and just like springboard into quitting their jobs and different travel and like really sharing who they are now. And it's like that I mean, I get thank you notes all the time from how powerful that was for
Yeah,
them. I want that for you. Like, take a
yeah,
chance on
me
yourself
too.
um, and do something different. And
Yeah.
yeah, get your roots down at the beginning of the year and just watch what happens. It could be so beautiful for you.
All right, Leila Dylla, you are the best. I love you. I'm
Thank you.
so
I love you
excited to
too.
know you, and I'm super pumped to see you in like 2 months.
I
3 months?
know.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Thrilled. Thanks, Jer. I
you're
appreciate you.
welcome.
Thanks for all that you do.